I do want to clarify, I don't frequent dive bars. Just want to make sure we're clear on that. Meanwhile, now to this segment, there was a time when dating was known as courting. You know, you courted someone and eventually with the thought that you would get married.
Of course. And what happens when you date for years and it never goes beyond that? Is there a deadline to dating? From dating to engaged? And what's someone to say if they haven't taken that next step? Like, what does that say about that person? UAB
psychologist Dr. Josh Klapow, Tony Kurre from the Kurre and Klapow Show join us with their take. Good to have you with us this morning.
Where you meet your prospective new mate is a dive bar. What are you talking about?
No.
Huh?
The previous story. Well, if somebody watching the previous story, they would have got that.
Yeah.
But hey, seriously, so how long before you say it's time to get engaged, kind of get married? Is there a time?
There's not an exact time. There's not an exact time.
Great answer.
But well, I'm a psychologist. It depends. No. But if you think about it, if you've had that conversation that we want to get married, and you don't have a reason why it's not the right time yet. And the reason could either be like logistics, we're working on our jobs, we don't have enough money, but it also could be, you know, we don't have enough communication, I don't feel comfortable yet. I mean, that is a reason to go. But if you're at that place where there is no reason other than I don't just think it's right, you know.
Then it'll never be.
That's a red flag.
Never happened. Never happened.
I got a friend of mine's been dating this woman for 5 years. He actually called me last night. It's where I kind of came up with this idea for the story. And she's been like, hey, you know, it's 5 years. What's going on? And he's like, you know, our job's doing great. I love you madly. We're wonderful. We're cohabitating. Don't have children yet. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to do it my way. I want to control the process here. And she's like, okay, well, let's hurry it up a little bit. And so now he's kind of feeling that pressure. So every 2 or 3 months, she's like, you know, how's that going there, by the way? My whole thing is it should never get to that point. Like about 2 or 3 years in, I think, let's be honest here. I mean, 2 or 3 years, my sister got married after she met a guy for 6 days and they've been married for 30-something years. So, but if you get to the point where you're almost at a point of no return.
Yes.
You start going, so after 3, I'd say 3 years. I think
3 years?
Well, research shows us that if you stay with someone for 3 years or date someone for 3 years, you have a 20% better shot not being divorced. 5 years or longer, it's 50%
well,
better shot.
Well, he concurs with that stat. It does remind me of the comedian, I forget who it is, he had a line that, you know, he says, where a date was for constantly asking, where we at? Where we at? He says, why are you tripping? We're in Red Lobster. But that's a totally different story. Dr. Klapow, though, so what about a person, though, who maybe grew up in a broken home and they witnessed a bad relationship and they're just reluctant to take that step?
That is a great question, and you do see that a lot. A lot of times the avoidance of going to actual marriage is not just someone who's lazy, not somebody who just, you know, wants to always stay single, but a lot of times it is familial trauma. And again, trauma being growing up in a divorced family can really and does set the stage for how you look at relationships. But again, that's one of those things that should be talked about.
Kind of worked out.
If you're in year 2 and and nothing's happening or they're not saying yes, it's an important conversation. Say, what's going on? Well, I grew up in a family that was divorced. I don't want this to happen again. You know, the 3, 4, 5 years is just
but the thing is, I've never met anyone or I've never heard a story of any 2 people who love each other breaking up because one said, I don't want to get married. I've never heard of it. I know people have said,
I've seen it in
not after you've been together for 5 or 6 years, if something works out. And usually it's the guy who says, you know what, you're right, I love you, let's do this thing and let's get married. And then it's more of a formality than anything because they're already together.
But real quick, is it a no-no to ask your partner, like, when are we getting married?
No, it's not a no-no. I think it's absolutely fine because, again, if you think that's a no-no, then you got communication issues. Right? You should feel comfortable being able to do that.
As Beyonce communicated, better put a ring on it.
I knew that.
All right, we'll be back. Thank you, gentlemen.